Hi guys, today we're going to talk about lesson 4.4. At the bottom of the module are some additional examples that you can follow along if you'd like to. First of all, today we're talking about intercepts and slope-intercept form. Those are the two really important things that I want you to walk away with today. So first of all, the x-intercept of a line is the x-coordinate of the point where the line crosses the x-axis. Intercept at the x-axis. And it occurs when y equals 0. That's really, really important. Y equals 0 when it is an x-intercept. So if you look at this line right here, an x-intercept, you're going to have an x value that tells you it's along here, but your y value is at 0. The other one that we have is the y-intercept. And the y-intercept of a line is the y-coordinate of the point where the line crosses the y-axis. And it occurs when the x is equal to 0. Okay? And if you look at the picture, here is your x-intercept, or your y-intercept, excuse me. Y-intercept, and it's going to intercept the y-axis when x is at 0 and b is any number along the y-axis. So that's where it's going to fall along there. Now, the slope-intercept form is a linear equation written in the form of y equals mx plus b, and it is a linear equation, and that's considered slope-intercept form. The slope of the line is m, and the y-intercept of the line is b. And this right here is what you need to remember. Now, I do have a couple important things over here. Linear equations can, but do not always pass through the origin. So proportional relationships are a special type of linear equation in which the b is equal to 0. So when we were talking about proportional relationships, we said we just had y equals mx. We don't have that plus b because it's going through the origin. Okay, so identifying slopes and y-intercepts. We're going to look at the first example, and it says find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of each linear equation. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure it's written in slope-intercept form, and it is in slope-intercept form because it's y equals mx plus or minus b. So this right here, the coefficient in front of the x is my slope, okay? And so the slope is -4, and the y-intercept is all of this. This is the same as a plus negative. So this is the same as y equals -4x plus -2. So the y-intercept is -2. Okay. On the next one, this is not close to this form here because we have a y -5 on one side and the x on the other. So we need to decide how to isolate and get y by itself. So we would add 5 to both sides. When we do that, we get y equals 3/2 x, and then plus 5, because those cancel out. Now it is in slope-intercept form, and the slope is 3/2, and the y-intercept is plus 5 or positive 5. Okay, so on the next part, in just a minute, you're going to do on your own. It says to find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of the linear equation. So you can just write those down, but if you need to turn, you do have, on the next sheet, you do have graph paper that you can use. All right, we'll come back to those. Right now, let's talk about example number 2. And number 2 is graphing a linear equation in slope-intercept form. So graph y equals negative 3x plus 3 and identify the x-intercept. Step 1, find the slope and the y-intercept. So in this equation, here is my slope. Here is my y-intercept. Okay. And the y-intercept is 3, so plot the point 0, 3. So I would put that point right there. And then use the slope to find another point and draw that line. So remember, the slope is negative 3 over, or negative 3, so that's the same as rise over run, negative 3 over 1. So we would go over to the right 1 towards the positives and down 3. 1, 2, 3. We could do that again if we needed to. 1, 1, 2, 3, and get another point. Draw your line, and there you have your line. Now, to find the x-intercept, when we graph this, we can see where is it intersecting the x-axis. The line crosses the x-axis at 1, 0, so the x-intercept is 1. All right, real life application. So for number 3, the cost y in dollars of taking a taxi x miles is y equals 2.5 x plus 2. Graph the equation and interpret the y-intercept and the slope. The slope of the line is 2.5, and 2.5 is the same as 5 over 2. It helps if it's written in a fraction form so you can see your rise over your run. Use the slope and the y-intercept to graph the equation. The y-intercept is 2. So what you would do is go to 0, 2 and plot your first point. And you count up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and over 2. Or you could go over 2 and up 5. And that gives you another point. Once you have 2 points, you can graph a line. The more the better, but 2 will give you a line. And the slope is 2.5. So the cost per mile. So remember what your axes are labeled. Y was the cost in dollars. So remember, this is cost. And I always encourage you to write your units so that you can keep in mind what they mean. And taking a taxi X miles. So this is miles. So the cost per mile is $2.50. Okay, so $2.50 per every 1 mile. So remember, we also learned that slope can be the unit rate. The y-intercept is 2. This is where it's crossing the y. So that means that since we didn't start at 0, 0, it means that the initial fee of the taxi is $2. So before the taxi starts its fare, you automatically have to start at paying $2 before the rate starts to increase. So now we have on your own 3, 4, and 5. It says to graph the linear equation, identify the x-intercept using a graphing calculator to check your answer. Desmos has a graphing calculator if you would like to check with that, or I will also be giving you the answers in a minute. Remember, on the next page, you have graph paper to do that as well. And there are extra videos that go along with showing you how to do some more of these examples.